Okay, let's start using epmv. So let's first click on this icon here. Next we go to misc, so miscellaneous, extend the bar, click on cancel. Now before we get into the fun part of importing proteins, we're going to do two things. Firstly, we're going to delete this cube. We don't want this cube mixing with our protein. So select it, X, and delete. Next, we want to make sure our cursor is in the center. So, of course, you can click around to get it roughly in the center, but you won't know for sure, and we need it to be exactly in the center. So, we do Shift S, and then find cursor to center. And now you know it's exactly in the center. Alright, let's start inputting proteins. So, in epmv, there are two ways to do that. The first way is, say if you've downloaded a PDB file, you can go and browse and select the file and then import it into here. Alternatively, you can go on the internet, go on the Protein Data Bank website, find the code to the protein that you want, and click on Fetch. So to quickly show you the internet method, we go to PDB, so Protein Data Bank on Google, and find the website. So over here, this is an immense database full of different types of proteins. For example, this really cool one, 5VA7, a DNA binding domain. So look at that. So if you wanted to see this, remember the code, go to Blender, and then put the code in here and click on Fetch. And to show you, if we've downloaded one, I'll go on Browse. Here we go here because I've stored it here. For most of you, it should be in Downloads folder, so just double click that file. Alright, look at this impressive structure here. So what we're seeing now is a ribbon representation of our protein, and in the middle, some DNA. How cool is that? Now, notice all these small black dots surrounding our object. Now these black dots represent all the atoms that make up our protein. So all you're seeing now is the ribbon representation. Now there are other ways to view our protein, and this is what I'll show you next. We're going to view this as a molecular surface representation of our protein. So to do that, we go on PNB Python scripts, and we change the script name to surface per chain. Then we click on execute. Alright, notice the sudden difference. This is our molecular surface view. So this, we've moved on from our ribbon to this representation here. Now, the next thing we're going to do is actually move these things. So there's this concept in Blender called layers, and we're going to strip away these layers and get back to our ribbon view. So think of this as an onion, right? An onion has multiple layers. All I'm going to do is just peel off each layer, and this will make more sense as I do this. Okay, we're going to do layer by layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is select this large pinkish structure. So right click that, and then holding shift, you want to get this DNA bit in the center, remember? So holding shift, we right click, and then the purple one as well. Whoops. So I'll do that again. So this one, green one, and then the purple one. So next, to move them into a different layer, we press M, and we're just going to click to the adjacent one. So as you can see, it's suddenly changed. If I go back to here, there we go. So all I've taken is the top layer, so the outermost layer of our protein representation. So this is a high quality image here. Okay, so this is still our protein, but this is the outer layer. Now what are we left with? So we're left with the dots of our atoms, a lower resolution representation of our protein, right? Not as nice as this one, right? There's more nice bumps and grooves. It's harder to see in this one. So this is our lower resolution one. So just to make this easy, we're going to move our atoms. So right-click atoms, press N, and we're going to move it to another layer. So let's move it under. Okay, so those are our atoms gone. So let's have a look. Our atoms are all in this layer. So as you can see, it's roughly the same shape, right? This is that bit sticking out, DNA regions around here, that kind of thing. Now let's move our lower resolution image. So right-click the large structure, holding Shift, we select the green and the purple. Okay, so now that they're all selected, let's move this one as well. So we press N and we move it to this layer here. So you do need to remember where you placed everything. Okay, so now we have our ribbon structure, our high resolution molecular surface representation, and our lower resolution, and finally all our atoms. So you've successfully stripped away each layer and placed it into individual viewing areas. Okay, now it's time to render our protein, right? We want to see it. So to render this object, we need to first make sure it's in the right camera view. So remember, camera view is pressing 0 to get in camera view. Notice how certain parts aren't in the camera, right? So what we can do firstly is, we need to center our object. So we use the shortcut Control Alt and 0 to center it. Now to include everything in our camera view. So what we do is we have to adjust the focal length. So over here in all our options, we want to find the camera option here. So next we go on focal length and we just slide this, right? Then notice the numbers are decreasing. All I'm doing is click on it and sliding to the left, right? Just keep sliding to the left and notice how we're zooming out. And look at that. We've managed to fit our entire protein in this view now. So what's next? Let me get rid of this bar here. Okay, so now it's time to render. So rendering, the shortcut is F12. So let's take a look. Alright, so it's all black. Now, what's wrong with it? It's because we haven't got lighting. So let's get out of this first, and let's just put in a light source. So to add a light source, we can just do Shift A, and let's add in a lamp. Let's add a sun. Let's rotate that to face our object, so pressing R, and then let's render that again. Alright, so there we go. Now, obviously you can play around with the direction of the lighting, but now as you can see, it's better illuminated. So you can go ahead and play around with which direction of lighting or particular light sources that you would prefer to make your protein look more nicer. Now to export this lovely high resolution image of this protein into Unity for, let's say, virtual reality, what we need to do is go to here, File, go to Export, and we export as an FBX file. So we click on that, and let's just call it test1, and then click Export FBX, and there you go. You've successfully managed to generate this image and also save it as an FBX file. Thank you for watching.